what are some practices that you have for both micro and like macro? Like what are some things that you do to help you maintain that focus? Like how would it look like for somebody that wants to improve on those two aspects?
Yeah, so micro focus is meditation and focusing on a single point. And, like a Vipassana style, you can focus on just that part of your nose, the part of your nose in between your nostrils, and put all of your awareness there and see how long you can hold that before your mind drifts. It's like, oh, it's a practice. And so the idea in those meditations, and you can move this in different parts of your body, of course, but the different, so going through that practice, you actually get to notice how your mind behaves. You're learning about your mind. It's like, oh, it likes to drift, da, da, da. And you may notice it takes about 2 or 3 seconds before it starts to drift. Mm-hmm. And then take that into your day. The practice is actually when you're going through your regular day, how is your mind drifting and bringing it back? I think people will go do meditation and they just act like they just go on about their day like they didn't, like it doesn't apply. It'd be like learning how to deadlift in the gym, and then when you're at home and you go to pick something up, you don't use your deadlift technique. You just fucking bend over. We see this in the gym all the time. I watch people do a deadlift and then they're like picking up their weights off the floor and then they like round their back and like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. We just taught you how to pick something up. You're not even using it. Yeah. The same thing happens with meditation. Or with journaling, is you're training your mind how to think, you're training your mind to focus, you're learning how it likes to unfocus and how to gently bring it back. But then you go into your regular life and you don't apply the technique at all. So you gotta really, a micro focus technique is doing that meditation. 5 minutes. Start off with 5 minutes. Any new habit, 5 minutes.
So for me, that, one of the biggest things for micro is rituals.
Yeah.
And I have my morning thing that I do. That's a ritual that I do most days. And what that allows me to do is to take that onto my everyday life, and being just more present in the current moment. It allows me to stay in focus. So, one of the things that we talk a lot about is purpose. And your purpose could be anything. Are you able to be present when you have something very personal, something with a lot of purpose in your life? Is down to that micro focus, is what I've seen gets me a lot of results. Is being present in the moment, and that's a practice that you cultivate. It takes time to get better at it. With that, in regards to macro focus, for me, is actually getting away from my natural environment, stepping into, like for example, going to Colombia and having an experience there allows me to get away from my everyday routine, and I'm able to see things from a bigger picture. And so getting yourself away from that everyday micro ritual and doing something that's completely different is gonna allow for expansion, and how that actually can look in people's everyday lives is something as simple as doing something new. Every month, we talk about in the 90-day program, be a white belt. Every month, try something new. And that has become a ritual for me. Like a macro ritual. I now naturally do new things very often without even noticing. There'll be times like I just went this entire week and every day I experienced something brand new. And that helps me with the whole macro focus, stepping away, seeing other people, having other experiences. It allows me to connect more dots, expand my macro focus, and then taking those things that I'm taking from this very expansive macro view and start applying it in everyday life back to rituals, back to how you wake up in the morning, what you do after that, your way of going about work, your way of going about relating with others. So it's a very in-depth conversation, and for somebody who lacks, there's a lot of people who say I lack focus that I talk on the phone with. It's a choice. Choose something and geek out about it. That's one of my superpowers. If there's something that I enjoy, I'll become a geek about it, and then I'll start teaching it. And that's how I've seen my tendencies of focus go, micro and macro.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to so like I talk about micro focus on a very specific point, which is the meditation, and then a macro focus on the largest scale would be like going to Burning Man. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, same as you, the novel experience is I go in a completely different environment where I get away from my day-to-day, and instead of trying to make anything happen, I just let flow happen. Just go, look, I'm just gonna see what happens next. And I noticed that after Burning Man, because I spent a good 7 days just letting things flow, that my mind is way more expanded and flow oriented, and my ability to focus is actually diminished. And that's okay. I know that that's what I'm getting into. I know that that's going to be the result of that, and it's good to have that period of time. And then a month afterwards, it's like, okay, let's start gently bringing the mind back into focus and the thing that matters the most. And so, like, for me, that's like an annual focus cycle of, okay, every spring, like we're in Costa Rica right now, and every spring, you know, we're gonna do like Envision Fest. We're gonna chill. We just got done in Colombia. I get a macro focus experience, and then by the end of the spring, I'm hyper focused throughout the summer, and the fall we hit Burning Man. So it's twice a year I do a macro focus, and then I bring it down to pinpoint focus, macro focus, pinpoint focus. So it happens twice in a year, but it's also happening within the week. You know, people have their weekends where they let go and expand, and then they bring their focus in on Monday, and that diminishes over the week until they get to the weekend again. And it happens within the day. You know, you may notice that your ability to focus early in the day is much higher than later in the day. And so there's this expansion and contraction happening on, you know, within a day, within a week, within a month, within a year, so on and so forth. If you want to get really crazy, we can just talk about generationally, and talk about one generation being more focused, you know, having more of a micro focus versus an expanded view of what's going on in the world.
So basic things people can practice. Start with their breath.
Yeah.
Noticing your breath, which starts a meditative state. So meditation. Have new experiences. Allow yourself to do the things you want to do in life. And like Mike said, just go with the flow. Because if we want to have control, we're not going to learn anything new. Things are just going to stay the same because that's what we're creating. So go with the flow. Allow yourself to be curious and see what comes from it. I've had life-changing experiences by having very little resistance and just going with the flow.
Yeah, and be intentional. When you're going with the flow, know you're going with the flow. And when you bring in structure and focus, know that you're bringing in structure and focus. So intention makes a lot of difference.
So if you're gonna have fun, learn some stuff, this is where it's at.